Everyone knows of the tragic fate of the United Spacefaring Guild Ushimura, a Planet Cracker-class mining vessel lost to a terrorist attack over Aegis 7. The horror of the attack destroyed not only the vessel and its crew, but also two vessels that came to its aid, the USG Kellyan, a maintenance shuttle, and the USM Valor, an Earth Defense Force destroyer. Thousands of lives were lost in the single greatest space tragedy of the early 26th century, or so the official story goes. The Ishimura was not actually destroyed in the Aegis 7 incident. However, all known crew are missing, assumed deceased due to the difficulty of identifying victims. The true fate of the Ishimura was revealed by analysis of recordings on the Starship security systems, as well as the logs obtained from the body rigs of personnel on board combined with our forensics. It was determined that the demise of the crew was undoubtedly caused by interaction with and extended exposure to an object known as a marker. A marker is an object familiar to the followers of the religion of unitology as a symbol or mechanism of alien origin intended to unify all humans through some supposedly supernatural means. The Ishimura was dispatched to the Aegis 7 colony to recover a marker that was discovered there. However, the colony was destroyed, suffering the same eventual fate of the Ishimura. The marker was proven not to be a static monument or obelisk, but rather a device of some sort, transmitting an electromagnetic signal that induced dementia in varying degrees amongst colonists and crew. Sightings of deceased family and friends became frequent, as demonstrated by victims of marker-induced hallucination. It is not yet understood why only images of the dead are witnessed in these early stages of dementia. Suicide and violent attacks sparked unrest before something far worse came from the marker: the contagion. It is not confirmed how the contagion came to be, but reports suggest that somehow the symbols written upon the marker translate to genetic code, which is carried by the electromagnetic radiation that emanates from the marker. Regardless of where the contagion comes from, all dead organisms in the area begin to reanimate. Dead organisms like victims of murder and suicide. The dead do not just come back to life. They change. Their dead flesh and bone reconfiguring itself into various forms, all of which are extremely hostile to non-infected life. These, what can only be described as monsters, are designated necromorphs. The necromorphs have the ability to take any shape necessary to accomplish a given objective, favoring several common forms over others under the assumption that these forms are the most efficient and effective at reproducing themselves and continuing the infection. Curiously, after initial reanimation, the necromorphs seem to generally have difficulty in reconfiguring themselves, likely having expended much of the energy present in the cells the contagion has appropriated. All necromorph forms are incredibly durable and can only be killed by incineration or separation from a marker signal. A necromorph form can, however, be incapacitated by severing all or enough limbs, leaving the form effectively paralyzed until it can be reabsorbed and reconfigured for other uses. Necromorphs appear to not possess sapience, but do display some degree of sentience. This does not mean any of these forms fear their own demise or destruction, as some destroy themselves to wipe out opposition and perceived threats. It is suspected that necromorphs act by the guidance of some sort of hive mind, though little direct evidence has been observed, and the complexity and intelligence of this hive mind does seem limited. The most common necromorph form is known as the slasher. The slasher is a modification to the standard human corpse, creating elongated bone protrusions with sharpened edges and sword-like points capable of dismembering victims. While the name slick, slashing weapons of the slasher often resemble and protrude from the arms of the victim, this is not necessarily the case, and many slashers can be seen with one or both of the corpse's original arms dangling from the sides of the combat form, useless. While the slasher makes use of its victim's head to occasionally spit leftover stomach fluid at targets, it does not need this head and is capable of functioning without it, though with somewhat decreased ability to detect prey. A second common form of contagion is the leaper. This form seems to make use of only the upper body and spinal column of a corpse. These arms remain relatively unaffected by the contagion, but spine is extended and turned into a sharp-bladed tail that is used to help propel the form rapidly forward, as well as impale unfortunate victims. The skull of the host corpse is inevitably enhanced with multiple mismatched fangs, capable of skewering prey. However, it must be noted that the leaper does not seem to chew its prey, its jaw hanging uselessly, with the grotesque fangs emerging not only from its upper jaw, but from the host's throat. As the contagion spreads, the necromorphs confuse corpses into larger forms. Among these is the tripod, which, as its name suggests, is a massive entity which uses entire corpses for its three limbs, and can demonstrate an incredible degree of striking power. While the tripod is among one of the most powerful configurations the contagion has to offer, several weak spots seem to appear on these larger forms, suggesting they are merely a transitory stage in the necromorph's method of repurposing bodies. The necromorphs generally become less and less recognizable as they fuse into larger entities, in some cases filling entire rooms or buildings as a mass of mixed flesh that is known simply as the corruption. Though this biomass has not been seen to harm living humans directly, it is not advised to make contact with it in any way. On the opposite end of the scale are the necromorph swarms, small clumps of animated cells containing the pathogen which spreads the contagion to new hosts. These swarms are the most amorphous form of necromorph and do not possess any identifiable features. As their name suggests, the swarms only move in groups and overtake victims by sheer volume rather than strength. It is not known why these small forms do not dissolve into the biomass of the corruption, nor why the corruption cannot become swarms. It is possible that this does actually happen, but has not been witnessed as of yet. While the primary method of necromorph propagation is for the combat forms to kill potential hosts and allow the marker signal to reanimate them, a secondary, faster method is by means of an infector form. The infector uses large flaps of skin and the warped remains of a human lower torso to crawl and, in some instances, even fly. The infector's only offensive tool is a long proboscis-like appendage that protrudes from its wide, flat underside. This proboscis stabs potential hosts in the head, piercing the skull, and infusing the host body with an enhanced form of the contagion. Forms created by this method are almost always deadlier than standard necromorphs, typically possessing sickly black flesh and moving at far greater speeds than usual. At the moment, the marker of Aegis 7 has been destroyed, along with the colony, likely as a result of mechanical failure with the mining vessel's gravity tethers, and the Ishimura has been moved off-site for decommissioning. Given the nature of the marker discovered at Aegis 7 and the marker Altman discovered on Earth, it is assumed more markers exist elsewhere in the local region of the galaxy. God help us if we find them.